Sometimes the most unsuspecting amongst us are nothing short of heinous villains. One might assume that someone with the moniker of the Grim Sleeper would be some sort of hulking, maniacal-looking malefactor. But the story of the serial killer Lonnie David Franklin Jr. shows otherwise. When described by a survivor, Franklin Jr. was described as neat, tidy, kind of geeky. He wore a black polo shirt tucked into khaki trousers. Hardly the picture of evil we would imagine for someone who murdered at least 10 people. The gruesome saga of Lonnie Franklin is one of malicious intent, violence, and evil, as well as a reminder of the failings of the system to prevent tragedy and injustice. The unfortunate reality is that many of Franklin's murders could have been prevented with a little more foresight and diligence. His nickname of the Grim Sleeper isn't because of some sort of preferred method of murder, but rather because of the 14-year gap in between his murderous activities. Born and raised in South Central Los Angeles, Franklin's chronicle of evil began as early as 1975. He was discharged from the U.S. Army when he was convicted of gang raping a 17-year-old girl in Stuttgart, West Germany. Photographs were taken of the victim, something that was noted with all of his future victims. It was a precursor to the villainy he would continue to act out on the world for more than 30 years. During the 80s, there was a series of deaths of several black women in the South Los Angeles area. Shockingly, the LAPD originally marked these deaths as NHI, or no human involvement, a distinction used for chronic drug users and prostitutes. It wasn't until they received pressure from the greater community, most notably by the Black Women Count movement founded by Margaret Prescott, that the case is acknowledged as a series of murderers. The LAPD teamed up with the Sheriff's Department to create a task force that determined there was a single killer, who became known as the Southside Slayer. While arrests were made in other murders, Franklin was never caught. Years later, DNA evidence was found on the 25-year-old murder victim, Genesia Peters. This evidence was linked to at least 11 unsolved murders in LA, dating back to 14 years earlier in 1985. That was when a new special force was formed, the 800 Task Force, to investigate the new evidence. Eventually, the case broke to the media when Christine Pelisek of LA Weekly revealed the existence of the task force to the public. It was LA Weekly who deemed the then unidentified murderer as the Grim Sleeper. Mayor Antonio Villaraigosa and Police Chief William J. Bratton came under fire for not publicly warning people of the potential threat living amongst the people of LA. The case became one of the most infamous in the United States, being featured on America's Most Wanted, and had a $500,000 reward being offered by officials for information that would lead to the perpetrator. It was in March 2009 when Anitra Washington, the sole survivor of Franklin's attacks, gave an interview with police in which she described her assailant. A year later, on July 7, 2010, it was reported by the Los Angeles Times that an arrest had been made. Police had used familial DNA analysis to track down Lonnie David Franklin Jr., a mechanic who had worked in the sanitation department. After linking familial DNA to Franklin's son, who had been arrested on felony gun charges, investigators marked him as a primary suspect. They collected his DNA when detectives posed as waiters in a pizza restaurant, using discarded food items, silverware, and glasses used by the suspect. When his DNA came back as a match on the victims, the arrest was made. Tragically, this revealed a missed opportunity by law enforcement to have had Franklin's DNA already in the system. Franklin was convicted of a felony in 2003, but his DNA was never collected. Had it been, his most recent victims could have been spared. Inside his home, investigators found photographs dating back to 30 years, an album of horror documenting his spree of cruelty. In total, there were over 1,000 photos and hundreds of hours of video uncovered. Almost all of his victims were black women, except for a single male. Police believe that the male victim was